Hello everyone, this is Paul Alster at Sportsbet TV. I'm delighted to be here with you. I'm going to be helping you to find your way through the world of horse racing betting. Always a challenge, but of course the odds are bigger than most other sports. And this year, it's even more of a challenge than ever before because, as we all know, COVID-19 has taken its toll of international sport, and horse racing has certainly not been unaffected. Indeed, there's been no racing for 2.5 months until Monday the 1st of June, when racing resumed in Britain with a 10-race card at Newcastle. Now, the first 3 winners on the card at Newcastle there were odds of 22 to 1, 9 to 1 and 16 to 1. So that tells you straight away that finding winners is not particularly easy because there is no form to go on. Normally, by this time of year, by early June, we're getting ready for the Derby and a lot of the form has begun to settle into place, but there's been nothing this term, and because of that, we're shooting in the dark a little bit. Racing has had to rather cut its cloth accordingly, and consequently there will be no public attending any of the race meetings. There will be a maximum of 12 runners in each and every race, and that is to ensure social distancing for the owners and trainers and the stable staff. So 12 runners does make it sometimes a little bit easier because some of the big courses can accommodate up to 30 runners in any one race. Now, as I said, the Derby would have been run this weekend. That's going to be later on. But what is going to be run this weekend are the first classics, normally run the first weekend in May, the 1,000 and the 2,000 guineas. And in subsequent bulletins this week, we'll be looking at the likely big shots for those, including, of course, Pinatubo in the 2,000 guineas, who's one of the hottest favourites there's been for years. And he, of course, ended his 2-year-old career last season with a higher rating even than the legendary Frankel. So Charlie Appleby's Pinatubo is definitely a horse we're going to hear a lot about this season. But now let's move on to the action on Tuesday, the 2nd of June, and there are going to be 2 meetings. Another 10-race card taking place at Newcastle and 9-race down at the Sunbury track at Kempton in London. We've got one selection for you at each of the 2 cards. As I say, we're shooting in the dark. Trainer form is pretty much unknown. And of course, we don't really know how fit a lot of these horses are. Some horses, you can prepare them very easily to run fit and ready first time out. Other horses, they need a run or 2 to reach peak condition. But we have 2 for you at Sportsbet TV on Tuesday, and the first of them, well, that's going to go at Newcastle in the 1.20, which is a 1-mile handicap, and they're racing there on the artificial surface, of course, at Newcastle. Now, the horse in question here is called Dark Vision. He's trained by Mark Johnston, who, of course, is the winningmost British trainer of all time. He's won more races than anybody else. And this Dark Vision was a very, very good 2-year-old. He was a Group 2 winner at Goodwood in 2018. He rather lost his way last season, but still showed enough to suggest that he can be winning some decent races in handicap company. And this race is for horses rated 0 to 105, and we think he's going to go very well indeed. Indeed, odds of 6 to 1 that are available at the moment suggest that if you back him each way for win, 2nd or 3rd place, you might at least get your money back as long as he finishes in the first 3. But we think Dark Vision could be very nicely handicapped in that 1.20 race at Newcastle. Now, for our second race, we're going to take you to Kempton, their 5.05 race, and this is quite an interesting horse. It's a horse who's never run in a handicap before, and he's trying a new trip of 1.5 miles. His name, and I'm going to have to take a look at this for you, it's an Arabic name. He's called Malika Ijahan. He goes in the Kempton 5.05. He's trained by Mick Appleby and is the mount of Alster Rawlinson. And Mick Appleby had a winner yesterday at Newcastle at pretty big odds, so we know his horses are pretty much fit and well. Now, this horse really did catch the eye on a couple of occasions in his 3 outings last year, where he never managed to win, but he did enough to suggest he could win a race over a further distance, and he steps up from 1.25 miles to 1.5 miles on Tuesday. Now then, the odds on offer for this horse, remember this almost unpronounceable name, Malika Ijahan, he's offered at 7 to 1 at the time of this recording, and that's their best price offer with the likes of Bet365 and Paddy Power. Interestingly, and it's always worth checking the odds comparison sites, there are some firms only offering 11 to 2, so maybe one or two of them are a little bit wary. But at 7 to 1 each way, we think that Malika Jahan in the 5.15 race, or 5.05 race, at Kempton, is worth betting each way as well. So that's two selections for you for this Sportsbet TV recommendation for Tuesday the 2nd of June. And they are, just to repeat, Dark Vision each way in the Newcastle 1.20. And later on in the day, probably worth waiting for, Kempton 5.05, Malika Jahan, a 7 to 1 chance for Michael Appleby and Alster Rawlinson. That's it for today. As always, we wish you the very best of luck. This is Paul Alster signing off and looking forward to your company again tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.